Welcome to another episode of Building a West Coast Drive, an instructional video series from Triple Helix Robotics. In this episode, episode 9, we're going to be making gearbox spacers, and we're going to be using a jig that we designed and built last year. The skills that we will learn are using a drill jig to locate holes. We're going to be transferring hole locations with a transfer punch, and we will again go through how to properly use a hand drill. This is the CAD model of the gearboxes that we designed and built over the summer of 2017. These gearboxes were designed to be made with our laser cutter. So these gearbox plates on either side are made out of Delrin. They're cut out by the laser cutter. The only other fabricated parts or non-commercial off-the-shelf parts in this design are the axles, the output shaft, and the small shaft that carries the second stage gear that's in the center, and as well as the spacer tubes. And what we did was designed a drill jig that would allow us to quickly make these spacer tubes. So we can cut these to length and then drop the cut tubes into this channel that has this socket head cap screw in one end of it. We slide the tube up against the socket head cap screw, and then we clamp that in place with this top plate with screws here and here. And then we can use a hand drill to drill through these two hole locations to quickly put in the holes into the spacers. So that lets us fabricate gearboxes very quickly. This drill jig was a nice training project for our new students last fall. So we actually built about 3 or 4 of these as a project for them to learn how to do some basic skills development. Now we use this drill jig the way that we're going to now show you in this upcoming video.
In this drive rail assembly are these gearboxes.
Yeah.
And the gearboxes are made out of these plates with these spacers in between. So we are going to cut 2 of the vertical spacers.
These? Right?
Yep. 2 of those vertical spacers that we can use to put into that gearbox. We have found that we don't need the one on top just by experimentation. So that's what we're working on over here, is to make those 2, to cut those. We're going to cut them to length, and then we're going to drill the holes in them. And the length is 5 9/16. Okay. And make sure you make an X on the side, on your waist side of your line, so you know which side to cut on. Yeah. Good. Okay. Now who's going to chop it on the chop saw?
Saw.
Okay. This gearbox spacer jig we made last summer to let us make these spacers faster. And the way that this thing is designed is so that we can clamp one of these spacers in here and then use these holes as a guide to drill our our holes to the right length. Now this one is designed to work with spacers that work with a gearbox that goes with 4-inch wheels, but last year we had 5-inch wheels, so these ones are a little longer. But that's okay, we can still use it to place the first hole, and then we'll match drill the other one to match the gearbox plates. And the way that this thing works is we're going to open this up on this side, and I think on this one you have to take it all the way out like that, and then you take your part and you set it down inside, and you set it up against that screw. And when you do that, that's going to position this spacer against the head of this screw so that this hole ends up in the right spot. And then this will swing over, and this sticks out, the top of this, just a tiny bit. So when you clamp this in place, now it's locked in place. And we can use the right size drill bit to drill this hole through. Now this one is going to be in the wrong spot for this length bar, but like I said, we'll match drill it on the other part, and we'll put this in the vise. Okay, good. So that's the first hole on the first one. So let's see if we can't get the other one in here so that we can put that first hole on this one too. So this one is just barely too long. Tell you what we'll do. Since we're clamping it in the vise, we'll just put it in here and clamp it. Good? There you go. Okay. Let's grab those gearbox plates, and we'll use them to set up our locations. To locate these holes, we're going to use the holes that are in the plate to transfer the locations onto these tubes. And the way we do that is with the transfer punches, which are up there. So what you want to do is pick out a transfer punch that is the right diameter, that it's a close fit to this hole. See how that fits in there? A little loose?
Yeah.
Go to the next size up.
That's pretty good.
Can you fit the next one up in there?
I don't think so. Maybe.
Okay, so we'll go with this one.
All right.
There you go.
Oh, there it goes.
Okay, then we'll push this one up. Then we'll set your spacer on, like that. And now we'll set this on top, like that. Does that one go on? Okay, let's put on our nuts. Nice and tight. Good. Okay. To transfer this, what we want to do is make sure that these things are in the right spot. Now we need the transfer punch and a hammer. When you transfer this, you'll set that punch in there, and you'll hit it once really hard with the hammer. Good. Perfect. Okay, who wants to do this one?
I'll do it.
Go for it. Okay. Good. Great. And see what that does is this transfer punch has a point on it, and see how it gave a dimple? So now we're going to drill a 1/4-inch hole where those dimples are at. Where's our 1/4-inch bit?
Be this hard.
And yes, you guys that haven't done a whole lot of drilling, when you're drilling a hole into a punch mark like this, if you look at a drill bit, if you look at the center of this drill bit, you can see how there's sort of a little straight flat piece right here. So if you try to use a large diameter drill bit into a punch mark, it's not going to want to center up on that punch mark. It's going to want to wander around on you. So the way that you keep that from happening is that you drill a starter hole with it with a drill bit like this, and this is called a center drill. And the end of a center drill has a real nice point on it, especially if it's nice and small like this one is. So this small point will center really nicely on this dimple. So see how that goes into the dimple and it doesn't move around on you? Like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to drill down just enough so that this straight part goes in, and you just hit this tapered bit. And it'll open up the hole just a little bit, and that will give you a hole that then you can use your 1/4-inch drill bit to go into. So you'll take your hand drill and you're going to set it so that drill bit is in the hole, and it'll center itself. And all of your pressure to drill comes from this hand that's on the top. This hand that's over here, when you're hand drilling, doesn't apply any downward pressure at all. All it does is keeps the drill from spinning like this. Because if you start to apply downward pressure with this hand, what your tendency is going to be is to push like this. because you just naturally, instinctively want to put your hand over the top of the drill bit, and that tilts it off center. So your downward force wants to come from this hand that's keeping everything straight and centered, and this one just squeezes the trigger and keeps it from rotating. Good, 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 good. Now I'm just helping you hold it straight. Straight. Okay, good. Stop. Who wants to drill this next one? Who hasn't drilled yet? Okay, you can do this one. Go slow. There you go. Good. And when you chuck that up, you're chucking onto the smooth. You want to just clamp on the smooth part. You don't want to clamp into these the flutes. And then to tighten it, grab here hard, grab here, and turn that way. So as tight as you can, as hard as you can. Okay, good. Easy, easy, easy. There you go. Who did this starter hole? Okay, so you can do that. You can finish it up on with the 1/4" one. So this is pretty thin material, so you don't have to push super hard or go super fast with it. It's more important that you just stay in control. Okay. That's good. See that? It went right through. Easy, easy. There you go. Good. All right. All right. So those are our 2 spacers. Let's fit them up with some 1/4" bolts and make sure that all of our holes line up. So on the one side, you're going to take the screw and put it in facing up, and drop the spacer on the small hole in place. There. Yep. Good. And now what we want to confirm is that a 1/4" bolt will go through that hole, and that everything will assemble up properly. Nice. Okay, now let's see if that plate will go on top. Keep your fingers on there or they'll all fall apart. Let it go. All the way down. Good. Okay. Success. Now we need to test the other one. Okay. Good. Is that other plate go on? Awesome. Terrific. Okay. We have 2 spacers. So when we do this for real, we'll be making 2 robots, and each robot has 2 gearboxes. So instead of just making 2 of these, we'll make 8 of them at a time. But they're nice and quick and simple to make when you're using the jig to locate that first hole and then match drilling to the other side. And it's even easier if we end up with a game this year where we can use the jig to drill both of the holes at the same time. In that case, we would drill the number 10 hole on both sides and then open up one of them to the 1/4".